Good Tuesday afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock and time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Browns with a player's day off. Then they will get ready for week 2 against the New York Jets, the home opener. Some movement as far as the roster goes. Let's take a look. The Browns signed a cornerback, Thomas Graham, from the Bears practice squad. They also signed wide receiver Chester Rogers to the practice squad and waived cornerback Herb Miller. Miller had that fumble recovery on the muffed punt by Demetric Felton. Rogers is a guy who does have return experience, punt return experience. Let's welcome in Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. Mary Kay, the moves there, again, Graham is thought to be an upgrade at cornerback, pretty much a position of strength. And I'm guessing Rogers may get a chance as a punt returner if things go well for him.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, we obviously saw Demetric struggle on some of those returns. I don't know if he had first game jitters or what was going on, but they need to get that fixed. I mean, it was really a tremendous loss for them when they lost Jakeem Grant for the entire season. So they're really still trying to recover from that. And then, yes, always looking for depth in the back end of the defense. We know that Greedy Williams is going to be out, I've been told, probably up to about 5 weeks with his hamstring injury, which he did that on special teams in a drill during practice. And so they definitely need some depth there.
And Graham is a guy that has been on the active roster some for the Bears as well. Let's talk about the Panthers game. Takeaways from that. What did you think went really well in week 1 that enabled the Browns to get that win for the first time in, I think it was 18 years?
Well, you know, I think the things that we thought were going to go well did go well. We've been saying all along that while Deshaun Watson is out on his 11-game suspension, the defense was going to have to dominate and they were going to have to come through in the running game. And those two things really happened in a very big way. Now, there were definitely some defensive issues with blown coverages that they have to get fixed. But down for down, except for, of course, 3 sort of big plays, they were pretty phenomenal on defense. So they need to take that and build on that and then try to fix those other things. But for Myles Garrett to come out and have the game that he had, for Jadeveon Clowney to come out and set the tone, I think, with a bat on the first play, for those guys to bat down 5 passes, to sack Baker Mayfield 4 times, for Grant Delpit to pick him off. I mean, they were determined to go out there and be the dominant defense they intend to be this season. I thought they showed flashes of that. And then once again, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt really came through.
Yeah, the thing that, you know, when I looked at the stats, the thing that surprised me, the longest run for the Panthers all day long, 9 yards, and that's with Christian McCaffrey in the backfield. There was the ball that went for 28, but that was ruled a fumble. 9 yards, that is impressive when you got a back like McCaffrey who can break one at any time.
Yeah, again, as you mentioned, that 28-yarder, you know, almost feels like it should go down as his longest run, but it didn't really count in the stats like that. But that was another one of those things. That was a chunk play, the type of thing in a critical moment like that the Browns cannot do. They cannot miss those tackles. They cannot let up with a guy like that. So they're going to have to make sure that they get that solved going forward. But as you mentioned, 33 yards rushing, genuine rushing yards for Christian McCaffrey. That was absolutely remarkable.
All right, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about week 1 in the Browns.
Hey, guys, diehard Browns fan. Was an ugly start to the season, but a win is a win. And people bagging and saying Jacoby didn't look too great. I mean, it was the first game with all the starters, and we didn't even have all our starters because Conklin was out, but I mean, that was the first game for all of our ones to really play together. But our defense looked tremendous. I just, it'll take a couple weeks, but I'm not going to judge the Browns based off of one game in week 1. I mean, I'm happy to get the W, but, just like any team, there's plenty to clean up. Just want to hear your thoughts. Go Browns.
Mary Kay, I know you've written about this. Do you think some of the struggles were because that you didn't have the ones playing in preseason games? I know it's a trend around the league, but are you going to see that as a developing thing as the games pile up for these guys? They'll get more and more comfortable?
Well, it wasn't just the preseason games that they didn't have enough time together in, because I did think that was somewhat of an issue. But the other thing is the fact that Greg Newsome was hurt for most of training camp. Denzel Ward was hurt for most of training camp. So those guys never really practiced together. So every time I looked out there, I mean, I was looking at, the AJ Greens and the Greedy Williams, who is now hurt himself. They just didn't have any continuity in the back end of the defense. And I think that matters. I think when it comes to communication and, you can take mental reps all you want, but there's no substitute for getting together and communicating and trying to make sure that you get everything covered up in a big game like that.
Now, probably because of what happened last year early in the season, a lot of fans are going, the communication issues on the back end, that happened early last year and they got it figured out. Are you concerned about those at all?
Well, once again, it's something that, they got in the film room yesterday. They dug into it. They saw what they did wrong. The first one, the 50-yarder to Ian Thomas, the tight end, that actually may have been sort of a, not the best call in the world. But then when you look at the 75-yarder, that should have been Greg's play to make, but I think he was also expecting some safety help. So in that regard, then I think maybe Grant was the one that should have been there to help him out on that a little bit. But these are things that when they get in the film room, they look and they say, oh, in this situation, I have to do this and I have to make sure I don't have a mental error. So things like that don't happen again. I think they're very correctable.
All right. Kevin Stefanski talked about what he saw from Jacoby Brissett in that first start for the Browns.
Jacoby, he battled. There were some opportunities early, but you got to understand that these games they're going to be some moments of some highs. You got to battle through the lows. You look around the league, and there's some tough moments. There's some really good defenses out there. So for us, it's going to be about learning from the plays that we would like back, and then just putting a plan together to be able to go perform this week versus the Jets.
Mary Kay, what did you think of Jacoby? I mean, he didn't turn the ball over. That's what we had heard, and you could see there were times where he just saw nothing there and threw it away.
Well, I think Jacoby actually suffered from not having enough time with the first team offense during training camp and the preseason games. I think he's one that would have benefited tremendously from more time on task with Amari and with Donovan Peoples-Jones and, the starters on offense. But I mean, I know what they were trying to do. They were really trying to bank some of those reps for Deshaun for when he comes back. They need to make sure that he is ready to go. And I think they felt like they would have enough time once he got suspended on August 30th to get Jacoby Brissett all the reps and all the time that he needed before that opener on September 11th. But I think they left him a little bit short. I also think they left him a little bit short on one more veteran receiver. I've just been saying that for months, and I'm sticking with that. I do think that he could use one more guy. All these young players really come up the learning curve, and it's going to take them a little while.
Do you think Jacoby kind of evolves, or the way Kevin Stefanski uses him and asks him to do some things? Does that evolve, or is it kind of the plan is the plan?
No, I think it will evolve, because what happens is when you start to see a quarterback in your offense and you're calling plays for him, and then you see how the players around him respond, then you know how to call the game. So for instance, one thing that we discovered is that it looks like Donovan Peoples-Jones is ready to take his game to the next level this year and really establish himself as a bona fide starting receiver. And he wins those contested balls. He's really good at that. So, I would think that Kevin Stefanski learned that, sorry, I need to sneeze, that Jacoby has some good chemistry with DPJ, and that DPJ is going to make the play more often than not. So then you start to call the game a little bit more towards some of those tendencies and traits that you see happen.
Yeah, he was very reliable. I mean, that's a good thing for a wide receiver. He made some really nice contested catches. All right, the Browns held a fan vote to announce what is going to be the midfield. What's going to be the logo, the helmet, or the elf? And the Browns did unveil that today, so let's take a look. We will be part of it. The big show at midfield, First Energy Stadium 2022. It won't be the helmet this year. It will be Brownie the Elf running the football. And it's a throwback. It's a big-time throwback. He looks angry. It looks like a Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt kind of elf running the football there. But again, the fans voted. That's what they wanted. I don't know how you feel about it, Mary Kay. I've always liked Brownie the Elf, so a big fan of that. Well done by the fans that voted on that one. I like that a lot.
They might have patterned that face after Baker Mayfield, now that I look at it. You know, I'm a little bit more probably traditional and maybe a little bit more plain and simple when it comes to those kind of things. I probably would have preferred the helmet, but who knows? I mean, have a little bit of fun, enjoy the elf this year, and you know, just why not? I mean, the people have spoken, and let them have their day.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we will head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Plus, one thing we learned about each team from CBS Sports. We'll tell you what they said about the Browns. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about the Browns roster this year and also moving forward.
Hello, this is Randy McKissack, lifelong Browns fan, frequent caller. As I predicted, the Browns won, and now we can move on from this Baker trash talking and just put that in the past. But let's give some credit to the organization. How about all of the trades and draft picks that Andrew Berry made? All of these guys contributed. Hunt, York, even Schwartz caught a pass. Jacoby Brissett managed the game very well. All the new receivers. I mean, the whole crop of players that even Perrion had a good play. All of the crop of players that Barry has brought in have made a contribution in the game. So I just want to give credit where credit is due. People were questioning our direction of this organization, and it seems like we're heading in a good direction. And game ball definitely goes to York. How about Kareem Hunt? My question is, do you think Kareem Hunt is doing enough to earn his new contract? I'd like to hear what you're saying. Thanks. Bye.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails, Mary Kay. It's a tough situation for Andrew Berry to decide about that with Kareem Hunt.
Well, he doesn't have to decide anything right now because Kareem Hunt is under contract through the end of the season. He's making $6.25 million this year, which is a nice amount of money for a backup running back, especially. So the key is for going forward. And if he continues on like this, and if he has enough guys in his corner, like Nick Chubb and like Myles Garrett, I would have to think that, that the Browns will think about bringing him back. So the key for Kareem Hunt is to just continue to do what he did on Sunday and prove that he's an integral part of this offense.
Yeah, he gave you a big-time reminder of how dangerous he can be in the red zone, and you tend to forget how many games he missed last season. And I got to believe if he was there, the red zone offense might have been a kick up there a season ago.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he really does a nice job when you get him down around into the scoring zone. He plays with so much passion, so much heart, and he just doesn't want to be denied. We saw him drag Steelers defenders over the goal line in that playoff game that year. So, yeah, he is just the kind of player that I think he serves as sort of the inspirational leader role.
CBS Sports with one thing we learned from each team. For the Browns, a dominant run game will carry them until Deshaun Watson returns. 39 carries, 217 yards, 5.6 yards per carry for Nick Chubb, and 11 carries, 46 yards, and a score for Kareem Hunt. Also had some receiving yards. I mean, Mary Kay, the run game was as advertised.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, there were some incredible runs by Nick Chubb where he was just jumping over the pile, and he was all over the place, making jump cuts and those kinds of things. And it was pretty incredible. Those two guys together, they inspire each other. I think it was great that they used them together about a half a dozen times. I think that, you could even do more out of that formation or out of that alignment, because there's so many things that you can do with it. You can split one of them out wide. You can split both of them out wide and go empty backfield. You can put one of them in the slot. You could put one as fullback, which we saw. So there are just so many possibilities, and you have to get your best players onto the field. I think that's vitally important, and they are certainly two of them.
We talked a little bit about the receiving core, and you've said all along you think they need another vet. How concerned are you? Amari Cooper only had 3 catches, 17 yards. I guess he had a few more targets, missed a couple of – Jacoby Brissett missed him on a couple of opportunities. How concerned are you that was a little disjointed week one?
Not too concerned after only one game. I mean, after 4 or 5 games, they're not connecting, then you really have to start to worry about that a little bit. But after the first game, I don't think it's anything to be alarmed about. But you do want your number one receiver to be involved in the productive end of your offense. So hopefully they can get things going for him. And if you have a guy like Donovan Peoples-Jones who continues to make catches like that, then maybe he'll take some of that attention away from Amari Cooper. Now, he was with CeeDee Lamb last year with the Cowboys, and he didn't always draw that extra attention. Now, I think teams might be looking at this like, hey, let's take away Amari Cooper and we're good to go. So the Browns have to make sure that that's not the case.
So the other thing that happened, Jack Conklin didn't play. Kevin Stefanski said he's getting close. James Hudson got the start, and you didn't hear anything about him, which usually tells you that a tackle is playing well. How well do you think James Hudson played?
I think he played really well. He graded out, I think in the top 6 or 7, according to Pro Football Focus, on the Browns amongst their offensive players. I thought he had a really nice game. The fact that we didn't hear his name a lot and that Jacoby didn't get sacked a lot, I think that really tells you that James had a nice afternoon. Now, they had to give him some help here and there, but I mean, that's just par for the course when you have a young player going up against a really good defensive end like Brian Burns. But for the most part, I think he held his own. And I think the good part about that means that you don't have to rush Jack Conklin back. If Jack needs another week, give him another week. They can get the job done. Yeah,
and the thought there is, let's get Jack Conklin back and make sure he stays in that lineup. And it's not, well, he's not quite there and we're going to set him here for a week. And once he's back, you want him back.
Yeah, and you want him for the home stretch. You want him for what they hope will be those last 6 games with Deshaun Watson and then some playoff games after that. So, you don't want to rush him back and then lose him for any length of time. So I think it's a good strategy.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. We'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Some questions about going for it on 4th down. We'll also look ahead to the Jets game, Week 2, the home opener Sunday. Sports for CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one was about some of Kevin Stefanski's early decisions on 4th down.
Hi, this is Mark from North Olmsted. Like everyone, I'm very pleased the Browns pulled out the win. Most of what didn't go right has been discussed. But as far as decisions that were made, a reporter did ask Stefanski why he passed on the early field goal try, which led us to getting no points for the drive. But in the euphoria of the winning kick, something was forgotten, and it likely could have cost us the game. The Browns earlier were in field goal range with a 4th and not very short, and they stayed on the field, and they appeared to be going for it. Only then the Panthers took a timeout, and then and only then we put out the field goal team and made a kick and got the points. Has anyone addressed what occurred here? Thank you for taking my call. Love the show.
Apparently, they cut a lot in me, but I was told that they didn't want my first field goal attempt to be a long one.
And yet, here you go.
Yeah, Mary Kay, again, I can't argue with the way they're handling Cade York. He seems ready for it. The other thought was at the end of the half, Kevin Stefanski might have left the offense on trying to get the Panthers to use up one of their timeouts.
Yeah, some of it was strategy on the of Kevin Stefanski. So on some of those occasions, he was trying to get them to either bring the time up or draw them into a penalty. And then again, as you heard, they did not want him to try the shattering, big long kick until they were going to really need him potentially at the end of the football game. So I thought that was
Yeah, and I think when you look at it now, they're probably ready to expand that a little bit and let them go crazy with that leg. All right, let's look ahead. Jets, home opener, New York Jets, lost to the Ravens on the road. What do you see as the formula for the Browns to beat the Jets?
Well, they're going to be playing their old foe, Joe Flacco, which, it's just kind of funny after all of those years. Joe Flacco had a 17-3 record against the Cleveland Browns. I just remember all those years talking about his record against the Browns and how he kind of had their number. So it'll be kind of funny, I'm sure, for him to go against the Browns. But I think the formula is going to be the same. I think they need to attack. I think they need to get him off of his mark. I think they need to disrupt him as much as they possibly can. And then I think once again that the Browns are going to need to rely on their running game. I would use plenty of Nick and Kareem both together and separately and ride that horse as much as you can. As I mentioned before, get the ball into the hands of Donovan Peoples-Jones. One thing I think they should do more of this week is really try to get the ball to their tight ends, especially David Njoku. David Njoku had 1 target for 7 yards. He's one of your bright, shining stars and highest paid guys on the offense. They need to take advantage of him. He's such a big guy. His hands are so much better than they used to be early on in his career. And I think he's ready for kind of a breakout season. So I think that Jacoby needs to see if he can try to connect with him a little bit more. But those are some of the things they need to do.
You look at Flacco, that's a guy that, he's been there a while. He's not as mobile as he was. Does that factor into what Joe Woods wants to do defensively? Or is Joe Woods kind of saying, we do what we do and our defense is going to kind of dictate tempo?
No, I think that they will tailor their game plans to the kind of quarterback they're playing. And Joe Woods this year can do so many different things that he didn't do last year because he knows his personnel. A lot of these guys are in their second year in their system now, including JOK, Greg Newsome, Grant Delpit. And, they can kind of pick it up a notch. And they're also trying to, figure out a little bit about what they can do with that defensive line with some young guys, Alex Smith, Perion, Tommy Togiai. So I think they'll have a specific game plan to try to take advantage of, as you mentioned, the fact that Joe Flacco is not a super mobile running quarterback, and that they'll try to do whatever they can to make him get the ball out of his hands very quickly.
We had talked a little bit about Amari Cooper. Do you think they try to get him involved a little bit more early as well? That's a guy who can certainly threaten defenses.
Yeah, and I think they tried in this game too. I mean, Jacoby Brissett went to him twice on that first drive, overthrew him on the deep pass, which would have been a sure touchdown, it looked like. So, yes, they will try to get Amari involved early. And, those two guys, I know that they'll work really, really hard in practice this week. They had been starting to heat up and looking really good in practice, just didn't come through in the game, again, as I mentioned, because I'm sure Amari is drawing that extra attention and it's hard to loosen things up for him. But more performances like they got out of Donovan Peoples-Jones, and to a certain extent, Anthony Schwartz came through with a very big catch. They need David Bell to step it up a little and try to spread things around a little bit more.
Jets running backs are a little bit bigger than Christian McCaffrey. Is that a concern? Kind of the middle of that defensive line, which everybody was talking about being concerned about, played pretty well, especially against the run. Jordan Elliott played really well.
Yeah, he did. Jordan Elliott played really well, and again, as I mentioned, Tommy Togiai came through, and he played pretty well as well. So yeah, you're right. They have some bigger running backs. And, it's going to be incumbent upon the Browns to get them down and to make those tackles. Now, JOK tackled pretty well in this game, but traditionally last year, that was an area that he really needed to pick it up. And, I think that he will have to do that in this game. But I think you saw this past week that Anthony Walker did a really nice job in that regard. And, he looks young and fresh and ready to go to me as well. So I think you'll see some big plays out of him.
Before I let you go, how do you see this playing out? Not necessarily a prediction if you want to do it, that's fine. But how do you see this game against the Jets playing out?
Well, it's the home opener. As you mentioned, they have their backup quarterback playing. So it's backup versus backup. In that kind of a matchup, I would take the Browns defense and their running game over what the Jets are going to have to offer. And so I see it playing out with the Browns winning their home opener and going 2-0 for the first time since I think like 1993 or something like that.
Yeah, 1993 is absolutely the last time that they have been 2-0. So, and then short week, week 3 is a short week, and it's the Steelers on Thursday night. So a lot of excitement. So Browns trying to go 2-0 for the first time since 1993. Mary Kay Cabot, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.
Mary Kay Cabot, make sure you check her out. Browns beat reporter, cleveland.com, and the Plain Dealer. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Scott Petrak, another Browns beat reporter, joins us. We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Maybe cliche, but there's no I in team. The only identity that matters is we. The collective effort to love thy neighbor is needed now more than ever. The responsibility behind pronouns such as I, me, and mine impact we, us, and ours. So understand that you make all the difference in the team. He, him, her, or she can't disturb our peace, since we control our destiny as student athletes. This is the power of pronouns.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Browns getting ready for the home opener Sunday against the Jets, trying to go to 2-0. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about Myles Garrett and Baker Mayfield.
Hello, Thad from Youngstown. Miles had 2 sacks and 6 pressures Sunday, and a fan I know said he was disappointed in him because he didn't do anything until the second half. He also said we should have kept Baker instead of all the trouble we've got with getting Deshaun Watson. Pittsburgh sure didn't mind weathering the storm with Ben Roethlisberger, winning 2 or 3 Super Bowls. Goodness. Thanks for taking my call. Love the show. Give me your thoughts, please. I really got to hear this one. Thank you.
All right, let's welcome in Scott Petrak, Browns beat reporter, Elyria Chronicle Telegram, as well as brownzone.com on the internet. I will let you go first with that one, Scott.
Where to start? I thought Myles played a good game. It's tough to dominate from start to finish. I know his sacks came in the third quarter, but I thought he played well throughout. The Baker conversation and Deshaun Watson conversation is always going to be interesting. I don't think Baker was the guy to lead this team to the Super Bowl. From an off-the-field perspective, I would not have gone after Deshaun Watson. I know some people disagree with me there. But I think we saw, again, I know it's only one game, but Baker looked like he did for a lot of his time in Cleveland, and I just don't think that's good enough.
Yeah, I would agree with Baker, and I think I think he's an NFL caliber quarterback. But if you think you have a roster that can compete for a Super Bowl, I'm not sure he is the guy that can get you there. Myles Garrett, I'd rather have somebody show up in the second half of a game. That's when the game is going to be decided. But I thought he kind of figured out how he was going to beat the rookie, and then decided to go beat the rookie when he could.
Yeah, and I don't think there were a whole lot of opportunities one-on-one to beat that rookie. So the fact that he got even the second sack was not one-on-one. There was a chip, and then he still beat the chip, and then the rookie left tackle. So, teams do so much to take Myles out of the game that I think we have to recognize that the opportunities aren't always there. And I thought he did a good job taking advantage of the ones he had.
Yeah, and, Jordan Elliott played pretty well. Tommy Togiai played pretty well, and that's in part because they were going basically one-on-one because Clowney and Garrett were occupying other guys. The defense played really well, Scott. The thing is, how concerned are you about those breakdowns, the miscommunications? Because I'm sitting there shaking my head when I'm like, man, we saw this last year.
Right. But I think you saw it at the beginning of last year. So I think there is reason to believe that they'll get it figured out, hopefully sooner than they did last year, right? It took probably till mid-season before they really got it together defensively and then finished really strong. And I think there's reason to believe that the Browns can get it corrected right away. They have a lot of continuity from a year ago. Denzel Ward talked yesterday, didn't make it seem like any concern that they couldn't figure it out. And I think you look at it a lot differently if the Browns had lost, right? Then you point the finger at the defense not being able to finish the game. But the fact that the Browns came back to win, courtesy of that Cade York kick, it takes some of the pressure off the defense, and you can look at the big picture, which is outside of 3 plays, I think they gave up 100. The defense gave up 108 yards. So there's a lot to like, and I do feel confident that they'll figure out those couple of busted coverages.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I would say that was if you take those 3 plays away, now you can't do that. That's almost as dominating a defensive performance as the Bears, minus the sacks a season ago, right. Because 9 yards was the longest run for Christian McCaffrey, and that's a guy that anytime he touches the ball, he could break a 20-30 yarder without question. So
there's no doubt. I'm with you, and I think they have the pieces to get it fixed.
All right, who not named Myles Garrett grabbed your attention on the defensive side of the football?
That's interesting. I thought Anthony Walker Jr., the middle linebacker, showed up. He played. I know he was named the starter and he was number 1 on the depth chart. I wasn't sure how much he would play. Kevin Stefanski, when he got asked about Anthony Walker, made a point of saying how much Jacob Phillips would play. But Walker was out there a decent amount. He was out there the first few series. He's on the field a lot, even in nickel situation. And he made a big play on McCaffrey early. They threw a swing pass to him, and Walker read it well and got around the blocker. So I thought he showed up. Overall, they played well. Jadeveon Clowney got his hands on a couple of balls. I don't think any sacks, but he got his hands on a couple of balls. Ronnie Harrison played a bunch too, and I thought he had an impact. Half a sack on one of the blitzes, him and John Johnson, the third, another safety. So overall, I thought everybody played pretty well.
So it's Pro Football Focus graded the top 15 rookies for Week 1, and tied for 15th, Browns cornerback Martin Emerson. Now he's tied with a guy that we'll see in Garrett Wilson, but boy, Emerson, every time I see him, he looks physical. He looks like he belongs. He doesn't look like, I'm going to figure this out. He's like, I know what I'm up against with an NFL wide receiver, and I'm ready for this.
Yeah, there's no doubt. He drew one PI the other day, got maybe a little too physical. But, the fact that the Browns had no real hesitation playing him a bunch, given Greedy Williams going to IR, and that was not, that happened during the week. Greedy Williams got hurt, I think, on Wednesday. So it's not like 2 weeks ago they said we're going to have Martin Emerson playing that number 3 role the whole time. At least I don't think that was the plan. But they had no qualms about putting him out there. Not only did they put them out there when it was against 3 wides, they had a rotation where they did not give Greg Newsome or Denzel Ward 100% of the snaps like those guys usually get. So I think that just speaks to the confidence the coaches have in Emerson.
And that's a key, because you keep guys fresh, and those are the guys that are going to have to be running all over the place against passing offenses.
Yeah, I don't think they'll do it all year. Corners like to be out there the whole time, and you don't want your third guy out there if he doesn't have to be. And Ward and Newsome both missed time in training camp. But I think it's a great sign that the Browns didn't have any qualms about doing it Week 1.
Scott Petrak, Browns beat reporter for the Elyria Chronicle-Telegram. You can also check his stuff out on brownzone.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, one of the Browns is up for Rookie of the Week. You can guess who. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. We're talking Cade York after the break. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Browns beat reporter Scott Petrak. You can read stuff at the Elyria Chronicle-Telegram. You can also check him out on brownzone.com. So Cade York with the 58-yard game-winning field goal is up for Rookie of the Week. The other nominees include Pacheco, Brisker, Dotson, Walker, and London from the Falcons. Scott, there was so much hype and build-up to Cade York. 4 for 4, 58-yarder. That's the longest field goal in the history of the NFL for a kicker in his first game with a new team. The guy, there was a lot of hype, and he lived up to it Week 1.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt at all. And, there's not a more pressure kick, right, that a rookie could face. He didn't miss. Right, 4 field goals, 2 extra points, was good on kickoffs. All you need to do is see that 58-yarder to know why the Browns drafted him and the confidence he has and the leg he has. But I think, there's also something to be said for he had a bad pregame. Like I watched his pregame, which now you have to watch Kay Cabot's pregame. It's almost must watch. And I saw him miss 4 in a row from 50 plus. And they were wide and, I think a couple were right and a couple were left. And for him to put that out of his head, get into the game and make him when it mattered, I think speaks volumes about what's going on inside his head.
Yeah, and he even admitted. He said he had a terrible pregame, and you're right. That tells you all you need to know about a kicker. If you can live in the moment, that's the type of kicker that you want kicking for your football team. Let's turn our attention to the passing game. It wasn't great. Thoughts on what you saw in Week 1 with the Browns passing game?
Yeah, that's one way to put it. I was struggling to find the right word yesterday when I was writing the story. I think I went with uninspiring, but I thought about, borderline pitiful because it wasn't easy to watch, and part of that is, Jacoby Brissett's not the most athletic quarterback. So he looks kind of slow, on a couple of those scrambles and even on those play action. I think he can still do the job. He can still handle the play action fakes and reset his feet and make throws. But you'd like to see him be a little crisper. But really, it comes down to 3 throws early. And I'm rewatching the game. I haven't made it all the way through. But he had Amari Cooper on that 3rd down the right sideline and led him too far. He was open at kind of right away. He beat the corner easily. And I think Jacoby Brissett should have just drilled it to him. And it might not have gone for a touchdown, but it would have gone for a big game and a gain and a 1st down. Then he had Kareem Hunt on the left sideline on the next possession on the 3rd down. He wins against the linebacker. And I think Brissett tried not to put too much air under it this time and overthrows him by a half a step. And then they ran a play action where Donovan Peoples-Jones comes open down the middle on a double move. And I think Brissett just hesitated to throw it. He had him and just didn't pull the trigger and winds up keeping it and scrambling for a couple of yards. If he makes 1 or 2 of those throws, the stats are a lot better. And I just think you look at his performance a lot better. Now, he didn't make those throws, but I think my point is the offense put him in a position to make them. And I'm sure Kevin Stefanski will keep giving him those chances. And if he does make a couple of those a game or 1.5, then I think that'll be the explosive plays needed to kind of get this offense where it can win consistently with Brissett at quarterback.
Yeah, and again, he doesn't have to make all of those throws. He needs to make 1 or 2 of them. There's going to be 1 or 2 throws a game that he has to make against decent teams to beat them. They just outplayed the Panthers in the other areas to kind of make up for it.
But it is worth noting, he made 2 big throws on the winning drive,
yes.
Right? I mean, he stood in and took a hit against when Donovan Peoples-Jones would run over the middle and made a good 13-yard throw, and then the 9-yarder to Cooper. They don't do that. They don't win the game unless he makes 2 throws.
Yeah, and you know what? That was one of the things that was kind of missing from last year. The ball is in your hands. You have to get us in an area. Now, you didn't have to go as far because you had Cade York, but you have to get us in an area to win the game, and he did.
No doubt. And, I mean, that would have been so painful for fans if Baker goes 0 for 5 last year in this situation, does it this year, and then the Browns lose. It would have been, twice as painful or whatever. So Brissett being able to do it, now he's 1 for 1, right? 1 for 1 and with a chance to lead a game-winning drive, and that should not be overlooked.
Here's a question I have for you. It seemed to me like, especially in that 4th quarter drive to get to the field goal, the middle of the field opened up more than it has in the past for the Browns. Is that by design? Is that just the way because he's a little bit bigger and can see over the middle a little better?
Yeah, that's interesting. I wouldn't negate that fact. The defenses probably didn't worry about Baker throwing down the middle intermediately because he had a hard time seeing over those big bodies. I would not dismiss that fact. And I do think maybe Brissett feels more comfortable with those throws than forcing the ball, on deep out routes where you can get into trouble. Maybe he's more comfortable over the middle.
All right, let's take a look at this. This is from ESPN and Pro Football Focus, unit strengths done by Computer Cowboy. So it's a graph form. We're going to take a look at pass protection. This is the pass protection. The place you want to be is where the Browns are, in the upper right-hand corner. It's win rate up to, top to bottom, bottom to top. The top's better, and to the right is better than to the left. So the Browns pretty elite in pass protection. And let's flip it over and then take a look at the pass rush. And that's where the Browns really got after it. The best pass rush win rate and Pro Football Focus grade, really in week one, ahead of the Bills, ahead of the Broncos. Those are two things that are going to be pretty important, especially the pass rush win rate. And you want to give your backup quarterback every opportunity to complete passes. So the offensive line was doing its job, as we kind of know. Offensively, Jacoby just missed a couple of throws.
Yeah, you win a lot of games if your lines can dominate, right? Especially in the pass protection and pass rush categories for sure. And, and that speaks to how well James Hudson III played in filling in for Jack Conklin at right tackle. Didn't really see him do much, which is a great sign for an offensive lineman. The Jed Wills, he gave up the one bull rush late, which turned into the pass rush or the roughing the passer penalty, which was big to start that last drive. But overall, I thought he played well. He was against Brian Burns, who's a good defensive end, and he didn't do much. He had no sacks. They only had one sack, the Panthers total. So that's a really good start, because I think I had questions about both tackle spots if Conklin wasn't out there, and they held up well. And then, I think with Garrett and Clowney, and then Alex Wright is at third end, and they can push one of those guys inside when they go three ends, and Jordan Elliott. The Browns have the potential to have a really good pass rush, and then Joe Woods mixed in the blitz a couple times, and it was effective. Like when they knew Baker had to take a deep drop and couldn't just get it out of his hands, they sent the blitz after him, and it got home a couple times.
Yeah, and again, if you give Jacoby Brissett or any quarterback opportunity, time, and in a clean pocket, eventually he's going to start connecting on those passes. One of the guys in run blocking that did well is Wyatt Teller. Let's take a look at this. This is from Dan Orlovsky, just giving us a little bit of the sample of the work that Wyatt Teller did. And let's take a look as Teller kind of doing some really good work blocking in the run game.
How good this is by Teller. I don't know anything about line play, but that's really good. This dude crossed his face. He's going for a reason. Look at that. Hit. Push. Pick up. Ooh, 27 with a little jump cut. That's so good by 77. Bop. Bop. Best guard in football? One of?
Yeah, and that shows you, basically, he created the hole on his own, being Wyatt Teller there.
Yeah, you don't see a whole lot of handoffs right up the middle go for, 24 yards. Almost, I think it might have been untouched. For a touchdown, that says a lot about Wyatt Teller. And, there's no doubt about his run blocking, right? Like, he's really good. I think he's gotten better as a pass protector. Not only just because of that graphic you showed, but even last year, I had thought in 2020, everybody fell in love with Teller as a, pancake guy and all those run blocks. And I thought he struggled a little bit in pass protection. I thought he did a better job last year. And it's amazing to think, Orlovsky says best guard in the NFL. He's not even the best guard on this team, but that just speaks to how good Joel Bitonio is.
Yeah, and you know what? It's probably Quentin Nelson, Bitonio, Teller. You can kind of throw it up, and different people are going to like one of those three. Let's take a look. Top 5 Week 1 grades on the Browns' defense from Pro Football Focus. And Myles Garrett, top-graded defender in the NFL Week 1, and with good reason. Then you see Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Clowney, Anthony Walker, who you mentioned. And take a look, Tommy Togiai grades out really high. Togiai and I thought Elliott, and even Taven Bryan, I think the defensive tackles played pretty well. And I think what that goes to show you is when you have Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney, the middle of that defense will do just fine because they're going to see a lot of single coverage.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think Clowney set the tone on the first snap when he batted that pass from Baker down. And, they script that play, right? They're thinking, we're going to get a quick out, pick up some yards, put us in a good second and manageable. And Clowney kind of screws up the whole drive for him with one batted pass on the first snap. And you're right. We've talked about it a million times, Dave, right, about the depth at D-tackle and whether it's going to be good enough. Now, it's only one game, but the fact that Togiai graded out so well I think it's a really good sign because he's going to play a bunch. He's the number 3 D tackle. And, today's NFL, you rotate those guys a lot. The Browns didn't have to do that much because they only played 53 snaps on defense as opposed to 80 on offense. But he's going to have to play more as the season goes on. And to get off to a good start's important because he only played 6 games total last year.
Yeah, and again, if the defensive tackles play well and they don't have to be spectacular, be good, this defense has the chance to be very elite.
Yeah, there's no weakness on this defense. I don't think if you get past that. I think the linebacker crew is better than it used to be, and I think the secondary has a chance to be outstanding.
Scott Petrak and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Also, we'll look ahead to the Jets game. We'll get some thoughts what Scott sees as keys for the Browns to go to 2-0. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Scott Petrak, Browns beat reporter, Elyria Chronicle Telegram. You can also check out his stuff on the internet, brownzone.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Yeah, hey guys, this is Ron from down here in southwestern Ohio, and great show every day, guys. Love ya. What I'm calling about was the Browns win yesterday. For God's sake, we finally got the monkey off our back. We won that first game, and I think it's only upside from here. Jacoby did exactly what Jacoby needed to do. He did not turn over the ball, and our defense looked aces. If we hadn't have had 2 blown coverages in the secondary, if that's what it was, we beat them by 17 probably. So go Browns, love them. This could be our year. Keep it going, Jacoby. Keep progressing, and hopefully we'll be playing at the end of the year. Love it. Bye-bye. Browns forever. Woof.
All right. Scott, again, when you look at areas of concern as you look forward, other than the blown coverage, is there anything that you kind of look at and go, that's really the only thing that when I look at it, it's like, well, hey, you know what? I'll take that back. Punt return game concerned me.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I'm really not worried about the defense. I think they'll figure it out. I think they have to generate plays in the passing game like we've talked about. And then, Dimitri Felton did not look comfortable back there. He had the one muff. He almost muffed another one that he had to kind of dive for. And I'm not sure there's great options behind him. They went with Jerome Ford for the kickoff return. But yeah, those are it. Now, the passing game's a huge they need to get better because that sabotaged their hopes last year, right? They were good enough on defense. They ran the ball great. They didn't throw it well enough. So, that's not something to slough off. But I do feel good about the rest of the team. And it's just amazing, listen to that caller, how different he feels and how different the tone is after an opening win, which we haven't had in forever. And, there's no pressure to then win in week 2, right? The Browns need to win this game, but it just sets you on the right path. And I think it allows everybody to exhale, which is important at this stage of the year.
So as you look forward, what do the Browns need to do in order to win week 2 against the Jets?
Yeah, Joe Flacco doesn't move particularly well, which sets up good for the Browns. The Jets are without Mekhi Becton. Dwayne Brown, I don't think is going to play, so they're down 2 tackles, which should open the door for Garrett and Clowney. If they can get a lead and then be able to force the Jets to throw the ball and try to throw the ball down the field, make Joe Flacco take deep drops. I think it sets up well for the Browns. I do. Make a couple plays early in the passing game and then go get the quarterback. Like, it feels like this should be a game that the Browns control. Now, I know the Jets are better than they have been. They had a really good draft. But without Zach Wilson, not that Joe Flacco can't do it, but it's different styles. He's limited. I mean, he's a good thrower of the ball. He always has been. But it just feels like the Jets aren't ready to take that step that some people thought they would take this year. And, it's only one game, but they only scored 9 points against the Ravens. I think the touchdown came late. So there's reason to think that the Browns have a big edge here.
Are you concerned at all about the Browns? The Ravens only ran for 3 yards a carry against the Jets. Now, the Browns ran it 39 times and ran 5.6, almost 6 yards a carry. Is it going to be a little tougher to run the football, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I've not watched that Jets game yet. I got back from Carolina yesterday. And the Ravens run it good. Or run it well, usually. I don't know how many times Lamar tried to run. They were missing J.K. Dobbins, so that could be an issue. Maybe the Jets forced the Browns to throw, and they had Sauce Gardner now at corner. So I guess that could be a challenge. But, again, if Brissett can make a couple of throws, maybe you get David Njoku involved, all of a sudden that can loosen it up for the run game. And I would like to think that the Browns' run game is further along than the Ravens' run game, just because Chubb and Hunt were so effective, and you have your O-line back. The Ravens are still missing Ronnie Stanley at tackle.
So you mentioned Njoku, only one target, and, Cooper only had 3 catches. Are those guys you think maybe you try to get involved just to get some sort of rhythm early throwing the football?
I think so. Cooper's stats are a little skewed because, one, we talked about the play that Brissett missed him, which just showed how good a route runner is. He made, I think it was J.C. Horn, he made him look silly. And then that 34-yard pass interference that set up the Hunt touchdown catch, that was Cooper getting open. It doesn't count towards his stats. He was wide open on that play. A lot of scheme opened him up there. Jacoby kind of floated it just because he was so wide open, and you could probably see the interference coming. So at least, Brissett tried to get him the ball. The one target to Njoku's interesting. I saw him, I don't know if it was Twitter or Instagram, Njoku said something about how Phil Snow, the coordinator for the Panthers, defended him. So I wanted to talk to him about it this week in case there's anything special. I don't know if he was getting double teamed or held at the line of scrimmage or whatever it was. But I think, I expect those two guys to be the biggest targets for Brissett all season long. So for them only to have 4 catches in the opener, I'd be stunned if that didn't change in a hurry. Yeah,
I would agree. How do you see this one playing out? How do you think this unfolds?
Yeah, I don't think I'm not going to predict a big high-scoring thing for anything the Browns do right there. I just don't think that's how they necessarily play. Now, if you get a couple of turnovers or a pick six or strip sack that turns into a touchdown, that could change things. But, I think the Browns will come out and they'll play solid, and I don't think they're in danger of giving up a ton of points to the Jets. So I got Browns 24-14.
And again, some of the keys, who do you think some of the key players will be?
Yeah, the Jets have some receivers, right? You saw the Garrett Wilson. So the secondary is going to have to play well. The three-headed monster of Ward, Newsome, and Emerson's going to need to play well. The safeties will have to shore up those couple of miscommunications. You can't let that happen. Again, because if that happens and Flacco finds it, then you could be in for trouble. So that's what I see defensively. And then I think the table's set for Clowney and Garrett to have big days, just given Flacco's inability to move and the injuries that the Jets have at tackle.
Yeah, you mentioned Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis. They do have deep threats that the Jets, the Browns defense is going to have to be aware of.
Yeah, that's a couple of top 10 or 12 picks, right, with Corey Davis and Garrett Wilson. So yeah, I think that will be the test. And Joe Flacco, I mentioned it a little bit. He's always throwing the ball great. Right? That's never been the issue with him. Maybe it's a little decision making. Maybe it's a little he's just slow. Doesn't move like quarterbacks do today. He's getting older, but he's always been a great thrower of the ball, can stretch the field. So I think you're right that the secondary, assuming Flacco gets any time to throw, the secondary needs to be on its game, because that's one way that Flacco can get you.
Scott Petrak, as always, thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much, Scott.
Thanks, Dave.
Scott Petrak, make sure you read him. Browns beat reporter, Elyria Chronicle Telegram. You can also catch his stuff, brownzone.com on the internet. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports4CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports4CLE.